Test. Tap it at screen. It's live.
Okay. Testing, testing.
So basically, the image will come.
Testing. 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 Okay, great. Hello, everyone. We'll get underway. Sorry, I just ripped the mic out of my ear, just getting things set again. Welcome to our people competition tonight. We'll go over some announcements first and get into the competition. So upcoming meetings. We're going to have a Zoom presentation next Friday, January 12th. Charles Country, J.P. Stones, he talked to us about 2 years ago. Not about this, but about something similar in South America. Basically, the Charo country is an area of indigenous people in the far reaches of Mexico, and he has done something very interesting. He has photographed with them. He takes photo tours down there, but his arrangement with the indigenous people down there they are a part of his organization. In other words, they receive proceeds from any prints that are sold or whatnot, and the photo tours as well. So it actually gets the community involved, and there's some pretty stunning images. And he talks about the collaboration too, which is also an interesting photographic one as well that benefits the local population. So that's the Zoom presentation next Friday. And then January 19th, we have another print competition, nature competition, January 19th. And before that, we're going to have our own Eric Wethington talk to us from Dodd Camera on cameras, body, and lenses, oh my. So Eric will be talking while the judges are judging during that January 19th meeting. January 26th, new kind of thing we're doing, which is interesting. A live presentation, mentor and mentee show and tell. We'll get to show, Bev Kenworthy is going to go over, there'll be some of the mentors here, a lot of the interesting, and the mentees, a lot of the interesting things that they've learned before and after photos, before their mentee sessions and afterwards. And it's a good just talk about the mentor program in general with a lot of examples too. So that's a live presentation. There's more on that on our website, and that is January 26th. February 22nd is another competition, black and white projection competition on February 2nd. Our next SIG meeting with Dave Bush is going to be February 1st, the first Thursday of February. And Dave is going to talk about new photographic gadgets. That's my gadget picture. I don't know if there's any photographic things in there, but you get the idea. Gadgets. Gadgets are gadgets. CPS, our Instagram page, if there's any shots, and we've had quite a number of, and I had not seen these shots before, which is interesting. I thought I'd seen most of the members' shots. If you have anything you'd like up on the CPS Instagram page, email your images to socialmedia@clevelandphoto.org, and they would be put up on the Cleveland page, which the tag is Cleveland Photographic Society as well. So quite a lot of, and if you're on Instagram too, follow Cleveland Photographic Society, because there are a lot of interesting shots up there that I had not seen. And again, it's another mark the date. May 3rd, it's going to be coming up. Our first phone competition. It'll be a competition night just like this night's a competition. You'll be submitting through Shutterscore, everything else, 3 pictures, 3 images maximum. And I say this now because start to look around. Use your phone. You all have, I might not know the make of your camera or whatnot, but you've all got phones. And if you're around, I'm not saying when you're out photographing with your Sony or Canon or whatnot to then also get a cell phone picture. But at times where you don't have your camera and you're out and you see something that might be good, really try to get a good shot of it. Enter it. We'll see. So this is a one-time thing. It's not part of the competition schedule. So the points don't count towards Photographer of the Year or whatnot. And the judges are going to be club member judges too. So it's a nice low-key way to really just dip our toes into the phone competition, or just phone photography. So May 3rd. Stop making those phone calls, start taking pictures with them. Cabin Fever Party coming up fast. January 27th, Saturday. Food, prizes, robbers auction, lots of fun. I am going to get an email out over the weekend to all members, which is the invitation. It'll tell you who to respond to. It'll tell you about all the details again as well. So save that date. It was a lot of fun last year. Going to be fun this year. And of course, all of our open Friday meetings are on our YouTube channel. You go to our main homepage, click on the YouTube icon. When you get to the YouTube channel, just click on live and you'll see all of our meetings there. Meetings like Zoom, because people email me, they ask me this, where was that? I can't find the Zoom presentation on YouTube or whatnot. Our Zoom presentations are presentations by people who this is what they do for a living and they don't want it out on YouTube, that we have on our members-only content. So our Zoom meetings and everything else, I usually post those the next day to our website. So if you just sign into the website and then click on the members-only content, you will see all those presentations there. So that is our upcoming meetings. So let's get on to our competition tonight. Let me bring up our judges. And we'll first give you a little introduction about our judges for tonight. First is George Kosar. Now, George Kosar is an artist and illustrator and a past adjunct faculty member of Ashland University. A Bay Village resident, he has more than 50 solo shows. His work has also been exhibited in 400 group shows across the United States, most notably numerous Butler mid-year shows in Youngstown and the Cleveland Museum of Art May Show. He has won numerous awards, including a Jurors Award at the Butler Institute of Art in 1985 and 1998, and Best of Show at the Ohio Exposition Center in Columbus in 1998. He's listed in Who's Who in American art, and his illustrations have graced the pages of numerous newspapers and magazines, including the Cleveland Plain Dealer, Esquire, Playboy, GQ, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. Irene Sacalotto, I hope I'm getting that right. So Irene Sacalotto, for more than 35 years, she has shared her photographic experiences and love of nature with thousands of individuals throughout more than 300 photo classes, workshop, lectures, and tours in both the United States and abroad, including Kenya, Iceland, Newfoundland, the Falkland Islands, the Brazilians, Pantanal, South Dakota Badlands, Bosque del Apache, Clintotague, NWR, Tangier Island, etc. Program sponsors have included zoos, nature centers, camera clubs, and conservation organizations such as the National Wildlife Federation, Norfolk Botanical Gardens, and the Assateague Island Alliance. For many years, she has taught photography classes at Johns Hopkins University and other educational institutions, and has written how-to articles on nature photography for national publications such as Outdoor Photographer and Birding. Her images have appeared in magazines, calendars, and books published by National Wildlife Federation, Natural History Society, and National Geographic. Credits include a book, Chincoteague National Wildlife Refuge, and Ecological Treasure. Thomas Porter. Thomas Porter is a freelance photographer living on a 200-acre farm named Thimbleberry Farm in Northern Virginia. Because he lives on a farm, his goal when not in the studio is to shoot both this and other farms, parks, and other landscapes that hopefully enrich our existence. In many of his photos, he attempts to incorporate the elements of J.M.W. Turner's watercolor landscapes and abstracts into his photos. His most recent award is being selected as a finalist in the Neil Dankoff 2023 photographic competition, and he believes that art is art, everything else is everything else. And those are our judges for tonight. And so, without further ado, let's get to some of the images. And we will start off in our people category. So here is our first people images. Now, let me say that all of the people images, it looks like, were commented on. When we get to pictorial, the first group, and I'll announce this then too, are just scores, and only certain ones are commented on. So all of the people are commented on. So our first image.
Irene says, love horse position, kicking and tail flying. Like that all people are focused on action. Great timing. Only little thing, would like to see the rider's face.
This is 8 Seconds by Mark Hansen, 19 points.
George says, intriguing photo of a woman with body paint. The red marks on her skin bother me. I would have gotten rid of them. Good composition, interesting idea.
And this is A Brave Gal by Joe DiStefano, 17 points.
Thomas says, this photo captures a lively and joyful scene, highlighted by the use of vivid colors and the intimate framing. The tight crop effectively draws attention to the central subjects, a woman and her small dog, emphasizing their expressions and the connection between them. The over-the-top accessories add a whimsical, playful element to the image, reinforcing the theme of happiness. However, there are a few areas where the composition could be refined. Firstly, the stray hairs from the dog's wig and the woman's hair or wig detract from the overall cleanliness of the image. These small details, though minor, can disrupt the viewer's focus and lessen the impact of the subject's expressions. Similarly, the dark lenses of the woman's sunglasses obscure her eyes, which are crucial for conveying emotion and creating connection with the viewer. Eyes are often said to be the windows to the soul, and in portrait photography, Clear visibility of the subject's eyes can significantly enhance the emotional depth of the image. Additionally, adjusting the dog's orientation so that it faces directly into the camera could improve the photo. This change would create a stronger sense of immediacy and engagement, as direct eye contact often does in photography. In summary, while the photo is vibrant and expressive, paying attention to these finer details could greatly enhance its impact.
At the Parade by Dave Saborik, 20 points.
Irene says, love the framing by the structure and the position of man. Dislike the bright beam of light or something white below the man. Distracting. Nice light on person.
This is At the Temple by Sausan Al-Haddad, 19 points.
George says, good composition. I would have liked to seen the background in black like the woman or in the body paint. Nice character study.
Bootsy by Brian Muhammad, 18 points.
Thomas says, this black and white photograph featuring a man in a Confederate uniform looking away from the camera is charged with historical context. The choice of black and white adds a timeless quality to the image and focuses the viewer's attention on the subject's expression and attire without the distraction of color. The man's wistful gaze, directed away from the camera, invites speculation about his thoughts and feelings. This element of mystery adds depth to the photograph, allowing viewers to ponder the historical implications of the uniform he wears. The Confederate uniform is a powerful symbol with controversial connotations, which can elicit a range of emotional responses from viewers, depending on their perspectives and knowledge of history. The background is indistinct, thus it does not really add or distract from the image. If the photographer was attempting to capture the ambiance of the Civil War, the color, tone, and position of the soldier do not accomplish that in this photo. While the photograph is thought-provoking, particularly in its portrayal of a figure associated with a complex and contentious period in history, its impact might be further enhanced by adding more contrasting lighting to deepen the emotional resonance.
Confederate Commander by David Grimmer, 23 points, third place.
Irene says, love soft spotlight on the woman, like her looking at the candles, like gold beads surrounding head and upper body. Dark background makes this image striking.
Diwali by Kim Wachowski, 21 points.
George says, wonderful dynamic shot. Feels like you're in the water with them. I like the asymmetrical composition. I might have diffused the background a little bit more.
Focus by Susan Mahorsic, 20 points.
All right, Thomas says, this photograph presents a contrast between the elegance of a woman in a white wedding dress and the rugged backdrop of an old, dilapidated building. The juxtaposition of these elements creates a powerful visual narrative, inviting the viewer to ponder the story behind the image. The choice to have the woman looking away from the camera adds a sense of contemplation, which is further emphasized by the solemn, decaying setting. The composition choice opens up a realm of interpretive possibilities. Is she reflecting on a past event or contemplating the future? I am confused about where the lighting source is. Is it from what looks like a window on the upper left, or is it streaming from off photo to land as alternating bars of light and dark at her feet? Regardless, the light highlights the details of her wedding dress and casts a soft glow that contrast sharply with the rough textures of the building's interior. However, the effectiveness of this photograph could be further improved by paying closer attention to the composition. Is the subject the building or the woman? This image is a study of contrast between new and old, between light and shadow. With a few compositional adjustments, it could offer even more powerful visual impact.
Hiding Behind Her Veil by Jackie Sayuski, 22 points, honorable mention.
Irene says, unusual setting, good exposure, red hat draws eye, wish man's head was up, need to crop bottom, wish man was more to the right.
Hope for Tomorrow by Fran Marino, 19 points.
George says this photo has nice contrast between reality and fiction, what's real and what's not. My only suggestion is the shadow of the fire plug. I would have photoshopped that out. Just a little unwanted element that doesn't add anything to the idea.
It's All About Connection by Graham Stead, 21 points.
Thomas says, this photograph featuring a woman holding uncut roses in a forest setting has the potential to be a captivating image, but there are several aspects that could be improved to enhance its visual impact. Firstly, the central placement of the woman in the frame, while a traditional choice, doesn't leverage the potential dynamics of composition. Placing the subject off-center, according to the rule of thirds, could create a more balanced composition. This would allow the viewer's eye to travel through the image more naturally, potentially leading to the roses and then to the forest background, thereby establishing a more compelling visual narrative. The blurred forest background offers a dreamy quality and ensures that the woman and the roses are the primary focus. However, the issue of irregular lighting detracts from this effect. The woman's face and the roses fading into the background are likely a result of insufficient contrast or lighting imbalance. Better lighting would enhance the subject's visibility, ensuring she and the roses stand out more distinctly against the blurred background. This could be achieved through the use of reflectors or adjusting the shooting angle to make the most of natural light. However, the roses, a significant element of the photo, lose prominence due to the lighting issue. In conclusion, while the photograph has a charming concept, its impact could be significantly improved with thoughtful compositional adjustments and better management of lighting. These changes would bring the subject and her roses into clearer focus, making the image more visually striking.
Jasmine by Jordan Tetzel, 18 points.
Irene says, face of man interesting. Eyes, great capture. Captures man's spirit. Like the fine strands of hair showing up against the background. Wish background was uniformly light without stripes.
Jolly Union Soldier by Bill Keaton, 22 points, honorable mention.
George says, why do I have to comment on cute baby picture? The composition is fine, the picture is in focus, but it's one of the least interesting photos in this competition.
Leah by Maria Diaconu, 20 points.
Thomas says, this photograph captures a beautiful moment in ballet, featuring a male and female dancer in a graceful pose with a backdrop of flowers and an arched door. The composition skillfully balances the elegance of ballet with the charm of the setting, creating an aesthetically pleasing scene. The dancers, positioned centrally, are the clear focal point of the image. Their pose is executed with precision. The male and female dancers' poise is evident, and their expressions convey the intensity of their performance. The synergy between these two dancers is palpable, adding to the overall impact of the photograph. The background, featuring flowers and an arched door, adds a romantic and almost fairy tale-like quality to the image. The natural beauty of the flowers contrasts with the architectural structure of the door, providing an interesting contrast. This setting enhances the artistic nature of ballet, lending the scene an air of fantasy. However, the framing and positioning of the dancers in relation to the background elements could be adjusted to improve the composition. If the dancers are too close to the background, it might cause the scene to appear cluttered or the background elements to distract from the dancers. Careful positioning to ensure a balance between the subjects and their surroundings might enhance the photograph's overall visual appeal. In summary, this photograph captures the artistry of ballet within a captivating setting. With minor adjustments in lighting and composition, it could further elevate the elegance of the moment.
Magic in Every Move by Susan Bestel, 23 points, third place.
Irene says, creative. Picked good face for this. Exposure good. Could have removed a little bit on the left side of frame.
Misny, All Channels by Glenn Petranek, 22 points, honorable mention.
George says, nice composition. You can hardly go wrong with the pretty woman, can you? Elegantly dressed and adds a little intrigue with what she is opening.
Natalie by Marge Brady, 22 points, honorable mention.
Thomas says, this black and white high contrast portrait depicts a rugged, grizzly man wearing an unexpected player's golf cap. This is a striking study in contrast. The high contrast treatment amplifies the intensity of the image, highlighting the textures and contours of the man's face, which tell a story of experience. The choice of black and white for this portrait is particularly effective. It strips away the distractions of color, allowing the viewer to focus on the subject's raw, weathered features, which are rendered with compelling clarity. The deep shadows and bright highlights accentuate every line and wrinkle, suggesting a life full of stories, hardships, and perhaps adventures untold. The man's eyes, partly shadowed, draw the viewer in, hinting at depth and complexity behind his stern exterior. However, it's the incongruous player's cap that adds an unexpected twist to the portrait. This element introduces a sense of playfulness or irony, contrasting sharply with the man's otherwise serious demeanor. The cap raises questions about his backstory, inviting viewers to ponder the juxtaposition between his appearance and the cap's association with a more casual context. Just a note, it would help to clean up the dandruff on his right side.
Peter by Gary Marich, 24 points, second place.
Irene says, nice light on face. Great pose with flute. Holding flute with nice angle and hands. Can easily see what he is doing. Just darken what is behind man. Light bands. Want background as uniform as possible.
Piccolo Player by David Grimmer, 22 points, honorable mention.
George says, for me, this photo is not as interesting as some of the others. I would have focused more on the sailors. Maybe if it was crop showing only the guy on top.
Ratline Monkeys by Dan Hennessy, 19 points.
Thomas says, this photograph of a Civil War reenactment presents a Union soldier on horseback in the foreground with a troop of blurred Union soldiers in the background, creating a dynamic image. The decision to focus sharply on the foreground soldier while leaving the background troop blurred effectively draws the viewer's attention to the individual rider. The soldier on horseback is captured with a level of detail that brings the historical period to life. The textures of his uniform and the posture of the horse all contribute to a sense of immediacy. One issue with this photograph is the expression on the rider's face. His face is poorly lit, hidden by his cap, and it's not clear what he is looking at. The blurred background, featuring a troop of Union soldiers, provides context and depth to the image. This technique conveys the chaos of military life, contrasting with the clarity of the soldier in the foreground. It suggests the presence of a larger narrative of which the foreground soldier is just one part. However, the composition could be adjusted to strengthen the narrative. For instance, positioning the foreground soldier slightly off-center might create a more dynamic composition, allowing the viewer's eye to move more fluidly between the individual soldier and the blurred troops in the background. This would enhance the storytelling aspect of the photograph, making it more visually compelling. In summary, this photograph captures a moment in history with its focus on the individual against the backdrop of the collective. With more attention paid to the lighting and composition, it could further deepen the viewer's engagement with the historical narrative.
Rebel Horseman by David Korosek, 20 points.
Irene says, interesting look on face and eyes. Don't like the background. Does not help focus on her. Spotlighting with darker background would help. Light is a bit flat on the woman and would like to see a bit more texture on her clothing. Perhaps more contrast.
Reenactor, Underground Railroad, Dave Saborik, 22 points, honorable mention.
George says, not a bad photo. Interesting women dressed to the hilt. Some of the stuff around them is distracting. The barrel with the pink spray bottle in the middle, some of the body parts at both ends of the photo. Photoshop them out or diffuse them.
Second Line Ladies by Gary Marriage, 19 points.
Thomas says, this photograph depicts a young boy with a cute smile gazing at rows of colored soaps. This is a charming and visually appealing image. It captures a moment of innocence and wonder, highlighted by the vibrant array of soaps that add a colorful backdrop to the scene. The boy's expression is genuinely engaging, drawing the viewer into his world of curiosity and delight. However, the primary issue with this photograph is the overly soft focus. While the soft focus can sometimes add a dreamy, ethereal quality to an image, in this case, it detracts from the overall impact of the photo. The lack of sharpness makes it difficult to fully appreciate the details of the boy's expression and the textures of the colored soaps. The soft focus blurs these elements, reducing the photograph's ability to fully convey the subject's charm. To enhance this photograph, a sharper focus on the boy and the soaps would be beneficial. This adjustment would bring out finer details of his expression and the textures and colors of the soaps, making the image much more visually compelling. A sharper focus would also strengthen the juxtaposition between the boy's lively expression and the inanimate objects, further enriching the narrative quality of the photograph. In summary, while the photograph captures a delightful moment With a strong composition and a rich color palette, the overly soft focus lessens its potential impact. A sharper focus would significantly improve the image, allowing the viewer to fully engage with the charming scene and appreciate the details that make it special.
Soap Boy by Mike Lonsdale, 19 points.
Irene says, love the silhouettes of person and birds against sunrise or set. Person is appropriately not centered. Darkened beach helps focus attention of action and color of sky. Might have trimmed a bit of the bottom.
Solitude by Joe Smith, 21 points.
George says, you can see the worry on the subject's face. Tells the whole story simply and effectively. Nice balance between sharp focus in front and diffused focus in the back. Diffused focus in the background. You can tell that's a barbed wire fence without distracting from the main meaning of the picture.
Striking by Leslie Nutt, 24 points, second place.
Thomas says, this portrait of a young woman dramatically lit in an almost chiaroscuro fashion is a striking example of how lighting can be used to create mood in photography. The use of light and shadow in this style is reminiscent of classical paintings, where the contrast between light and dark areas adds a dramatic, almost theatrical quality to the subject. This technique highlights the contours of the woman's face, accentuating her features. The simplicity of the portrait is one of its strengths, focusing the viewer's attention on the woman's expression. Her gaze, possibly contemplative or introspective, is emphasized by the lighting, which skillfully carves out her features from the surrounding darkness. However, the complex patterns on her blouse detract from the overall impact of the portrait. In a composition where the play of light and shadow is so central, the intricate designs on the blouse introduce a competing element of visual complexity. This can be distracting as the eye is drawn away from the face and the emotional core of the portrait. To enhance the portrait, a more subdued or solid colored blouse would be preferable. This would reduce visual competition and maintain the focus on the woman's face. In summary, a more minimalist approach to the subject's attire would elevate the portrait, allowing the lighting and the model to take center stage.
The Darker Side by Angeli Persons, 21 points.
Irene says, unusual and unique. Interesting coloring with pink pulling viewers' eyes into photo. Like bright hair framing face. Wish left eye showed a bit more.
The Devil's Gaze by Bill Keaton, 21 points.
George says, for me, there's too much background for this photo to be effective. Guy in a boat, so what? Crop in on him. Show either more lake or more woods. Break the plane. The guy's hat is making a tangent with the shore.
The Lone Fisherman by Eric Wethington, 17 points.
Thomas says, this dramatic photograph of a man singing and sweating captures a moment of intense emotion and physical exertion, effectively conveying the passion and energy of a live performance. The image's rawness, highlighted by the visible sweat, adds to its authenticity, drawing the viewer into the experience of the moment. However, the photo faces significant challenges with its lighting and tonal balance. The underexposure of the man's face is a critical issue. In portrait photography, and particularly in a scenario that captures such a dynamic expression, the subject's face should be well lit to reveal the nuances of their emotions. The underexposure here unfortunately obscures these details, diminishing the potential impact of the image. In a black and white photo, where tonal contrasts are paramount, this lack of illumination on the face prevents the viewer from fully connecting with the subject's expression. Moreover, the large white coat worn by the man exacerbates the lighting issues. Its bright reflective surface draws the eye away from the face, becoming the unintended focal point of the image. In a black and white setting where contrasts are more pronounced, the coat's brightness is amplified, creating an imbalance in the photo's overall tonal composition. This issue is known as blowing out, where bright areas lose detail and appear as uniform white spaces, detracting from the photograph's detail. To improve this photograph, a more careful approach to lighting is essential. Balancing the light to adequately expose the man's face while preventing the coat from dominating the scene would significantly enhance the photo's quality. Techniques such as using diffusers or reflectors to soften and redirect light, or adjusting the camera settings for a more balanced exposure could be employed. In post-processing, tweaking the levels or employing dodge and burn techniques could also help recovering some details and rebalancing the tonal contrast.
The OJs by Bryant Muhammad, 17 points.
Irene says, like backlight on person's hair. Would be best if cropped tightly on person. Surroundings distracting, not focused on subject.
Tired by Jordan Tetzel, 18 points.
George says the photographer let this woman's personality shine through. Wonderful costume, bright smile, even with the uneven teeth.
Warm Welcome by Sausan Al-Haddad, 19 points.
Thomas says, this photograph of a female model in a formal dress, staring away from the camera, presents an air of elegance. The pose of the model, coupled with her gaze directed away, evokes a sense of mystery and introspection. The choice of attire adds a sense of sophistication to the image, enhancing the overall aesthetic appeal. However, there are elements in the composition that detract from the photograph's potential impact. Firstly, the blurred sash near the bottom of the photo is a noticeable distraction. Its lack of clarity interrupts the visual flow of the image. In a composition where the subject and her attire should be showcased with clarity, this blurred element disrupts the viewer's focus. Ideally, every aspect of the model's dress should be in sharp focus to capture the intricacies of the fabric, contributing to the overall elegance of the photograph. Another issue is the positioning of the model's left hand, which disappears off the bottom of the frame. Hands are expressive elements in portrait photography, and their placement and visibility can significantly impact the narrative and emotional tone of an image. The partial visibility of her hand creates a sense of incompleteness, leaving the viewer's eye to wander in search of the missing part of the story. This could have been addressed by adjusting the framing to include her entire hand, thereby maintaining the continuity of the model's form.
Wistful by Marge Brady, 21 points.
Irene says, love complementary colors, yellow and blue. Yellow brings focus to woman, like soft lighting. Person interesting and expressive with scarf framing face. Soft light helped avoid hot spots on surroundings. Might cut just a tiny bit of bottom.
Woman in Yellow by Richard Ader, 21 points.
George says, nice composition, cute kid. Don't know what the orangish spot is on the child's shirt is, a reflection or a sunspot. I would have taken it out. It detracts from the image and adds nothing to the photo.
Young Zora Boy by Brian O'Riordan, 20 points.
Thomas says, and Mike on here. Thomas says, this photograph of an older female model grinning delightfully at the camera is a heartwarming and engaging image. Her genuine smile and the twinkle in her eyes convey a sense of joy, inviting the viewer to share in her happiness. The choice to capture such a candid moment adds a layer of authenticity to the image, making it particularly appealing. However, there are a few compositional issues that detract from the photograph's overall effectiveness. Firstly, the background elements in the upper left corner are a distraction. Ideally, the background in a portrait should be unobtrusive, serving to enhance rather than detract from the subject. These elements draw the viewer's eye away from the model's engaging expression, reducing the impact of the moment. A cleaner or more blurred background would focus the viewer's attention solely on her, enhancing the connection between the subject and the viewer. The second issue is the underexposure on the front of her face. This uneven lighting creates a disparity in the visibility of facial details and expression. The shadowed area lacks the same clarity and depth as the more illuminated side, which can lead to a loss of detail and a less balanced portrayal of the subject. Proper lighting in portrait photography is crucial to convey the subject's features accurately and attractively. Last, there is a small, dark bit of her right earring that is distracting and should be removed. To improve this photograph, addressing the background and lighting would be key. Simplifying the background or adjusting the composition to minimize distracting elements would ensure that the focus remains on the model's expressive face. Regarding lighting, using reflectors or adjusting the light sources to evenly illuminate her face would reveal more details and create a more harmonious and aesthetically pleasing image.
Zora Woman by Brian O'Riordan, 19 points.
Irene says, good exposure. Liked angles of wooden pieces and position of boy. Liked expression on boy's face. Needs to be a tighter composition. Too much empty space on left.
Boy Playing by Maria Diaconou, 21 points.
George says the idea of separating one photo into three makes one compelling image, as it is old rock itself, but still effective. This photo is nicely shot from the beginning.
Bridget Reckless of the Super Babes by Graham Stead, 21 points.
Thomas says, this photograph captures a beautiful moment in ballet featuring a male and female dancer in a graceful pose with a backdrop of green plants and an archway. The composition balances the elegance of the ballet with the charm of the setting, creating an aesthetically pleasing scene. The dancers, positioned centrally, are the clear focal point of the image. Their pose is executed with precision. The male and female dancers' poise is evident, and their expressions convey the intensity of their performance. The synergy between the two dancers is palpable, adding to the overall impact of the photograph. One change that may make this a more dramatic image would be to use a tighter crop. This would put all of the focus on the dancers. The background, green plants, and an archway add a romantic and almost fairy tale-like quality to the image. In summary, this photograph captures the artistry of ballet with a captivating setting. With minor adjustments in composition, it could further elevate the elegance of the moment.
Dance is the Expression of Joy by Susan Vestal, 22 points, honorable mention.
Irene says, Makes statement with fan. The colors draw eye. Background busy with light and people. Person's face lit warmly but does not stand out.
Deep Reflection by Angela Persons, 19 points.
George says this is a wonderful rock photo. Great composition, sharp focus, great detail. The band should use this in one of their promotions.
Depeche Mode, October 2023 by Susan Mahorsic, 25 points, first place.
Thomas says, this photograph featuring a female model standing behind a glass counter selling donuts presents a charming scene. The model's gentle and pleasant grin adds a warm, personable touch to the image, creating a welcoming atmosphere. The array of donuts showcased behind the glass counter adds vibrant colors, contributing to the photo's visual appeal. One of the interesting aspects of this photograph is the ambiguity regarding the main subject. Is it the woman with her engaging smile or the assortment of colorful donuts that she's selling? This ambiguity adds a layer of depth to the image, inviting the viewers to contemplate the interaction between the vendor and her wares. The composition of the photograph plays a crucial role in this interpretation. If the focus is more on the woman, with her expression being more prominently featured, it suggests that she is the main subject, and the donuts are a secondary element that complements her story. On the other hand, if the donuts are more in focus, with their colors and details more pronounced, it could indicate that they are the primary subject, with the woman serving as a contextual backdrop. However, the photograph could benefit from a clearer distinction of its primary subject. If the intention is to highlight the woman, the framing and focus should be adjusted to ensure that she dominates the composition. Conversely, if the donuts are the main subject, the composition should emphasize them, possibly with a closer framing or a perspective that brings their details into sharper focus.
Donut Shop by Dan Hennessy, 20 points.
Irene says, captured interesting face, cool beard and hat band. Interesting that left eye is peering over sunglasses. Shirt, hot color, attracting viewer's eye, as does the hat band. Background needs to be more uniform, pulls attention away from subject. Large black area distracting.
Fort Bridger Rendezvous, Wyoming by Mike Lonsdale, 20 points.
George says this to me was one of the most this to me was one of the most intriguing pictures in the competition. The abstract floor contrasting with the stark white walls that is splattered with what? Blood? Paint? The guy's red hat? The man is nicely posed. For my money, this shows the best of show.
Lead Paint's Destruction Despair by Fran Marino, 22 points, honorable mention.
Thomas says, this photograph of a bearded man, likely an Orthodox Jew, carrying a briefcase and walking towards the camera on a cobbled street, is a richly textured image. The choice of location and the man's movement add a dynamic quality to the photo, while his traditional attire provides a glimpse into his cultural identity. The blue and tan tones of the cobbled street create a beautiful, subtle backdrop that accentuates the man's dark garb. This color contrast not only enhances the visual appeal of the image, but also helps in drawing the viewer's attention to the subject. The cobbled street adds an element of historical and cultural depth. complementing the traditional aspects of the man's appearance. However, a notable issue in the photograph is the apparent absence of the man's left hand. This could be due to the angle of the shot or the way he is carrying the briefcase. The missing hand creates a sense of imbalance and incompleteness in the image, potentially distracting the viewer from the overall composition. In portrait and street photography, capturing the entirety of the subject is often crucial in conveying a sense of wholeness. To enhance this photograph, a different angle or a slight adjustment in the man's position could have been considered to ensure that both hands are visible. This would maintain a natural balance of the image and avoid any unintended distractions.
Man in Back Alley by Richard Ader, 22 points, honorable mention.
Irene says, nice position of girl. Good diagonal of her compared to troops. Other photos of reenactments had busy background. Nice diagonal of fence framing scene. Light, uniform, and good exposure good. Troops out of focus, not pull interviewer's eye away from the girl, but yet important to the composition.
Marching Off by David Korosek, 22 points, honorable mention.
George says, nice composition. This photo has the feel of being posed, if you know what I mean. It is nicely shot, nice lighting, nice costume, but doesn't really tell me any story.
My Granddaughter by Jackie Sayuski, 22 points, honorable mention.
Thomas says, this black and white photograph of a three-wheel tuk-tuk-like vehicle in motion with a driver and two passengers passing by a building labeled observation deck is an intriguing composition. The choice to capture the scene in black and white adds a timeless quality and emphasizes the contrasts and textures present in the scene. The sharp focus on the tuk-tuk is effectively executed, drawing the viewer's attention to the vehicle and its occupants. This clarity and focus highlights the details of the vehicle, from its structure to the expressions of the people inside, creating a sense of immediacy. The motion of the tuk-tuk is suggested not only by its position in the frame, but also by the blurring of the background and pedestrians. This technique effectively conveys a sense of speed and movement, adding to the photograph's dynamic feel. To enhance this photograph, a balance could be struck between the sharp focus on the tuk-tuk and a slightly clearer depiction of the background. This would allow the viewer to appreciate the movement of the tuk-tuk while also gaining a sense of the environment it's moving through. Such an adjustment might enrich the narrative quality of the image, offering a more comprehensive view of the scene. In summary, this photograph is a captivating portrayal of an instant of motion amid urban life.
New York City Date Night by Mark Hansen, 21 points.
Irene says, interesting frame around person inside. The inside is too light, burnt out, with lights in ceiling and light on person's head. Person outside does not help composition, blends with doorway. Too much foreground, need to crop.
Street Photography by Eric Wethington, 18 points.
George says, love the action and immediacy of the photo. The photographer caught the situation at the right moment. Love the reaction in the women's faces. One's laughing, the other one's cringing.
The Birds by Joe Smith, 20 points. And that concludes our people competition. And we'll move on now to the pictorial. Remember, the first group here will not be commented on. This is All Day Fun by Susan Bestel, 21 points. Autumn Leaves by Dan Hennessy, 18 points. B by Susan Mahorsic, 21 points. Can You Keep a Secret by Jerry Paino, 23 points, honorable mention. Cleveland Grit by Dennis Wirt, 22 points, honorable mention. Dulcimer Tones by Mike Lonsdale, 19 points. Eurasian Eagle Owl by John Harford, 22 points, honorable mention. Florida Scrup Jay by Bob Kowaleski, 20 points. Flyby by Eric Wethington, 23 points, honorable mention. Gateway Arch by Donna Schneider, 21 points. Girl in the Grass by Leslie Nutt, 20 points. Guardian Angel by Jackie Sayuski, 23 points, honorable mention. Holmes County Courthouse by Jerry Paino, 18 points. It Is an Ancient Mariner by Graham Stead, 22 points, honorable mention. Jungle Wonder by Eric Botsky, 22 points, honorable mention. Just Another Pond in Alaska by Bob Kowaleski, 21 points. Lanterman's Mill by Ron Werman, 21 points. Limpkin in the Morning Swamp by Richard Schneider, 21 points. Mushroom Man by Joseph Miko, 21 points. New River Bridge by Dennis Wirt, 20 points. Shopkeeper by Richard Ader, 21 points. Snapping Turtle by John Harford, 21 points. Standing Tall by Eric Botsky, 20 points. Steelhead Weather by Mark Hansen, 18 points. Straight Shooter by Joseph Miko, 20 points. Sunrise Hologram by Joe DiStefano, 21 points. Sunset from the Petite Jean, Richard Schneider, 20 points. The Birds 2 by Joe Smith, 18 points. The Catch of the Day by Fran Marino, 25 points, second place. Train Graveyard by Glenn Petranek, 26 points, first place. Whitney Portal Waterfalls by Dave Korosek, 20 points. And now we'll have the commented images.
Okay, Thomas says, this landscape photograph of a lake reflecting a blue sky with puffy white clouds surrounded by green fields and trees captures the serene beauty of nature in a tranquil setting. The reflection in the lake creates a mirror image of the sky, adding depth and symmetry to the composition. Lush greenery around the lake provides a vibrant contrast to the blue and white tones of the sky and water, enhancing the overall visual appeal of the scene. However, the positioning of the horizon line near the middle of the photograph presents a compositional challenge. In landscape photography, the placement of the horizon line is crucial as it can affect the balance of the image. A horizon line that cuts the photo in half can create a static and less engaging composition, as it divides the frame into two equal parts without a clear focal point. To improve the composition, the horizon line could be positioned according to the rule of thirds, where the line is placed either 1/3 from the top or bottom of the frame. This technique creates a more dynamic composition, allowing the eye to move naturally through the image. If the sky's reflection in the lake is a key element, placing the horizon line 1/3 from the top could give more emphasis to the reflections and the foreground. Alternatively, if the sky itself is the highlight, positioning it in the upper 2/3 of the frame would enhance its prominence.
A Beautiful Day by Marge Brady, 20 points.
Irene says, good exposure, different approach, interesting with leaves covering structure. Not sure if I like distorted angle of house. Does have interesting angles on roof.
Abandoned Autumn House by Glenn Petranek, 21 points.
George says, nice composition, leads you right to the church's door visually. Nice sharp focus throughout, contrasting the rough tree bark and the church's smooth tooled look.
Anthony Chapel by Donna Schneider, 21 points.
Thomas says, this lovely macro photograph showcasing a multicolored moth or hummingbird feeding on a purple flower is a vivid representation of nature's intricate beauty. The image successfully captures a delicate, fleeting moment, emphasizing the interaction between the creature and the flower. The focus on the flower brings out its rich purple hues, making it a strong visual anchor in the composition. However, the partial out-of-focus elements of the moth or hummingbird, particularly its wings, the wings and tail, present both a challenge and an opportunity in the photograph. In macro photography, sharpness is often the key to revealing fine details that characterize subjects like insects and birds. The slight blurriness of the wings and tail can detract from the overall impact of the image. These areas, especially the wings of a moth or hummingbird, are critical for conveying the essence of the subject. On the other hand, the selective focus brings an artistic quality to the photo, potentially conveying motion or emphasizing the softness of these creatures in contrast to the more defined flower. This effect can add a sense of movement, suggesting the fluttering of the wings as the creature feeds. To enhance the photograph, a narrower aperture could be used to increase the depth of field, bringing more of the moth or hummingbird into sharp focus without losing the clarity of the flower. This adjustment would allow for finer details of the creature to be captured, such as the texture of its wings and the delicate colors of its tail.
Clear-winged moth at Bee-Balm by John Harford, 23 points, honorable mention.
Irene says, soft light appropriate. Warm colors pull viewer into frame. I do not like dark pole coming out of her head. I do not have a feeling for what she is doing or looking at.
Flowers by Sausan Al-Haddad, 18 points.
George says, looks like Chagrin Falls, although I never saw a damsel standing underneath the bridge. Solid photo, but might be a little contrived idea-wise.
Girl Under the Bridge by Leslie Nutt, 20 points.
Thomas says, this twilight photograph capturing a pier leading to one or two lighthouses is a visually compelling image that combines both natural and artificial elements to create an engaging photo. The pier with its lights forms a strong leading line, guiding the viewer's eye toward the darker silhouettes of the lighthouses. This compositional technique effectively creates depth and draws attention to the focal points of the image, the buildings. The color palette of the photograph is striking. The peaceful steel gray of the water in the foreground provides a serene base, contrasting beautifully with the vibrant streaks of orange in the sky. This interplay of colors adds a dramatic yet tranquil atmosphere to the scene, capturing the essence of twilight, where the calm of the evening meets the remnants of the day's warmth. However, the presence of an orange shape between the two buildings is a noticeable distraction. This element disrupts the otherwise harmonious composition, drawing attention away from the intended focal points of the pier and lighthouses. Its removal would enhance the overall aesthetic of the photograph, ensuring that the viewer's focus remains on the key elements of the scene.
Grand Haven Pier by Dennis Wirt, 23 points, honorable mention.
Irene says, interesting silhouette with water as the background. Good that sand is lit a bit. Wished for better, more interesting pose with more separation. Would like face outline. Would trim left side of frame. Bright reflected light in water pulls eye.
Island Man by Brian Muhammad, 18 points.
George says, this photo has great asymmetrical composition. Love the texture of the tree and the wonderful colorization.
Japanese Maple, Lakeview Cemetery by Dave Saborik, 21 points.
Thomas says, this photograph featuring what appears to be a tree in a mirror image presents an intriguing and somewhat abstract composition. The ambiguity of the subject matter adds a layer of mystery to the image, inviting viewers to engage in a deeper examination and interpretation. The use of a mirror image to depict the tree, or what is believed to be a tree, is a creative choice that results in a fascinating pattern. This symmetry, often found in mirrored images, can transform ordinary subjects into captivating, almost kaleidoscopic designs. The pattern formed in this photograph is aesthetically pleasing, with its repetition and balance offering a sense of order. However, the difficulty in identifying the subject can be both a strength and a weakness. On the one hand, it encourages viewers to explore the image, to delve into its details, and to engage with it on a more imaginative level. This can be a powerful tool in abstract photography, where the aim is to evoke feelings or ideas rather than to present a clear, recognizable subject. On the other hand, the lack of a discernible subject can also lead to a sense of confusion or disconnection for the viewer. Without a clear focal point or context, it might be challenging for viewers to form a connection with the image or to understand the photographer's intent.
Just Because by Brian O'Riordan, 22 points, honorable mention.
Irene says, difficult exposure. Exposure, well done. I would concentrate on organ area with railing and arch framing seats and altar area. Would cut some off left.
Methodist Balcony View by Ron Werman, 21 points.
George says the composition is spot on. Leads the eye from the rocky foreground to the cloudy sky, like almost a panoramic view.
Morning in Paradise by Eric Botsky, 21 points.
Thomas says this photograph, centered on a bunch of purple flowers, possibly orchids, is a visually pleasing image that captures the details of these elegant blooms. The choice to focus on the flowers, placing them centrally in the frame, allows for a clear presentation of their details. In terms of lighting, ensuring that the flowers are well lit to highlight their textures and colors is essential. However, on my monitor, it appears that the flowers are slightly underexposed. However, while the central composition is a classic approach, it might also present a missed opportunity for a more dynamic arrangement. Placing the subject off-center, according to the rule of thirds, for example, might create a more visually interesting composition. This technique can add a sense of balance to the image, guiding the viewer's eye through the frame in a more natural way.
Purple Phalaenopsis Orchid, Gary Marich, 21 points.
Irene says, nice blend of color. No real focus. Would be better to concentrate on the dragonfly if possible. Feel photographer has not decided on subject. Dilute. Photographer needs to decide what attracted him to the scene and compose to emphasize it with a purpose in mind.
Red Orange Dragonfly by Joseph Miko, 18 points.
George says, this photo for some reason reminds me of a mob movie. Guy in the middle on the phone ordering a hit with his capo next to him. Anyway, I like the black and white film noir vibe. Good composition as well.
Sopranos by Jordan Tetzel, 18 points.
Thomas says, this photograph featuring a human shadow projected through a window onto a tiled wall is an interesting study in light, shadow, and geometry. Metal handrails in the foreground and on the wall act as leading lines. The concept of capturing a shadow as the main subject is creatively compelling and adds a sense of mystery to the image. The use of the metal handrails to create leading lines is an effective compositional technique. These lines guide the viewer's eye toward the shadowed form, emphasizing the intended subject of the photograph. The interplay between the rigid, linear handrails and the organic form of the human shadow creates a striking contrast. This juxtaposition not only enhances the visual component, but also deepens the narrative quality of the image as it plays with themes of reality and illusion. However, the prominence of the handrails, especially the one in the foreground, presents a compositional challenge. While they serve as leading lines, their dominance in the frame can be distracting, potentially drawing attention away from the shadow. The foreground rail, in particular, competes with the shadow for the viewer's focus, thereby diluting the impact of the shadow as the main subject. To improve the photograph, the photographer might try repositioning the camera or the subject to adjust the prominence of the handrails relative to the shadow. By diminishing the visual weight of the rails, particularly the one in the foreground, the shadow would become more of a central focus. Alternatively, using a shallower depth of field could blur the foreground rail, reducing its impact and keeping the viewer's attention on the shadow.
Stairwell Ghost by Jerry Paino, 22 points, honorable mention.
Irene says, good exposure. Nice silhouette of man and can see what he is doing. He is against a hazy mountain, so you can see him. Great sky with clouds that have captured color from sunset. Nice touch of color in the lower tree on right. Maybe a bit dark in the upper left corner that could be blended with rest of sky.
Sunrise over the Arkansas River by Richard Schneider, 23 points, honorable mention.
George says, there's a wonderful feeling of the vastness of nature in this photo. The lighting is perfect. The lighting is perfect when the photographer took this one.
Sunset at St. Mary Lake, Glacier National Park by Bob Kowaleski, 21 points.
Thomas says, this lovely photograph capturing the Milky Way as a backdrop to an old barn is a striking blend of celestial wonder and rustic charm. The contrast between the vast star-studded sky and the grounded presence of the barn creates a captivating juxtaposition, highlighting both the grandeur of the cosmos and the simplicity of rural life. The Milky Way is beautifully rendered, with its swirling patterns of stars and cosmic dust dramatically strewn across the night sky. The old barn in the foreground adds a strong visual element to the image. Its aged structure and weathered textures provide an interesting focal point to the scene. The barn anchors the composition, providing a sense of perspective against the backdrop of the night sky. Balancing the light in such night photography can be challenging. The barn needs to be sufficiently illuminated to reveal its details without overpowering the natural luminance of the stars. If the barn is too brightly lit, it could detract from the natural beauty of the Milky Way, while if it is too dim, valuable details might be lost. In this composition, the photographer has nailed it, ensuring that both the Milky Way and the barn complement each other without one overshadowing the other.
T.A. Moten Barn After Dark by David Grimmer, 26 points, first place.
Irene says, original, and I love the interesting approach. Eyes clear and intense, drawing viewer into photo. Fast enough shutter speed to capture sharp head, eyes, and water droplets. Might have cut just little bit of left where dark.
Water Bath by Bill Keaton, 24 points, third place.
George says, there is an effective fragmentation of the airplane that I really like. The fragmented wing and the whirling prop contrasted against the sharp focus of the main plane's body is very engaging.
We're Hit, Bail Out by Joe DiStefano, 22 points, honorable mention. And that concludes our pictorial for the night. So I want to thank the judges and thank you all that have submitted pictures. And see you at the next competition.